get done. And no matter how people switch and flip on them, they still hold their ground. This is for you, soldier. Yo, let's do this. Someone's trying in my life, trying to take me down. Unleash the wrath of a menace, even though I'm trying to fight. Demons getting stronger, harder to fight. Mama keep praying, I feel her in the air at night. Looking in the mirror, seeing nothing but the pain. Homie, ain't no sunshine on my rainy day. Ain't nobody got my back, so I stand alone. Full blown on my own, cause the path I chose, I thought would bring better days. It's like I'm in the mountain, every pack on my back, I be scared of brave. Every step that I take is a test of my faith. Push me to the limit just to make the grade. Most hated by my enemies, these niggas seem no so-called friends to turn their foes. So where do I go? I'm at the crossroads, doing everything I can just to hold on. Just a soldier in the game, trying to find my way. Dead in the low, but nowhere to go. I'm at the crossroads. Yeah, yeah, trying to hold on. What's up, everybody? This is your man, Next Icon. This is the ICON Chronicles, and I am, as always, your ever-loving host. No excuses. I can overcome negativity. Next Icon is in the building. This is Monday. I have no idea what the date is. I'm lost today. But today is Monday, and today we are talking about first impressions. And this was definitely not a first impression because due to technical difficulties, I was running behind a little bit, but I am here now. So, again, the topic is for tonight is first impressions. And the reason that we have this topic is because a lot of us do not understand the concept of first impressions. First impressions set the tone of just about everything that you start in this path that we call life. The first meeting, the first time that you meet someone, the first time that you go to a job interview, the first day on your job, the first time that you meet a new person, that is your first impression. And you get one chance to make a first impression. So you have to make the best of it when you have it. Now, the first impression is number one, is your appearance. The way that you talk to someone, the way that you interact with someone the first time that you're in that environment, that is your first impression. That gives people that have met you for the first time the first idea, the first inkling of what type of person that you are. Whether you're a loyal person, whether you're a kind person, whether you have a good spirit. There's people that read energies. If they read something off about you on that first meeting, that kills your first perception. Take, for example, the way that I'm currently dressed. Now, I don't know if you can see it, everything. Yes. Now, I keep my hat on because I'm representing my company. That is my brand. But if you take a look at this, this is the first thing that people see because this is a visual world. So this is the first thing that they see about you. This presentation that you see of me, this is my first impression to you. And depending on what type of environment we are in, you will have all type of conceptions about what type of person that you think I am. Considering the fact that I'm dressed here, nice little necklace, no ornaments, decorations, no charms, anything like that, on just a regular necklace, shirt, tie. Outside of the hat and the shades, I could be a businessman. I could be going to a job interview. But in certain environments, this would not be okay, such as the street environment. You know, I can't walk around like in a blood and crip neighborhood looking like this because in their perception, I have money. Some of them would think that I'm an easy mark to rob. This is, again, first impression. Les Brown has a saying, do not let someone's perception of you become your reality. Now, again, looking at me, your first impression of me would be what? I'm an executive, maybe a business owner, of which I am. But this is how we mess things up because we don't pay attention to our environment and to the people that we meet, so we don't know how to present ourselves. Now, for a job interview, this would suit well. For a business meeting, this would suit well because it gives the viewer the impression that I am business oriented, that I would probably fit the criteria of an employee. But the one thing that could kill that, now, like again, you see how what I look like outside of the hat and the shades. Now, the other thing that could kill that first impression is the greeting. Now, we all have our ways. We all have the way that we speak. We all have the way that we communicate with each other. But we have to be able, especially African Americans, we have to be able to switch our conversation in a moment's notice. And some of us cannot do that. We kill a first impression. We look nice, we look like we fit the part, but then we say something like, yo, shorty, I think I'll be dope for this job, man, because I got the skills. You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, man? And I can handle this. No, that's gonna get you walk right out the door. First impressions. It's all an acting game. If you don't know how to act, you do know how to act because we all act in one way, shape, or form. We all act. The first impression that you give of somebody is the first thought that they have of you as an individual. You have to be the one to set that mark. You have to be the one to set that standard that you're above everyone else, that you're not like everyone else. Regardless of how you dress, the way that you appear, that you approach someone, the way that you speak to someone, the diction in your language, the tone in your voice, the way that you walk. And I'm not saying, people had to say that you walk like a geek, walk like a nerd, whatever, what have you. It's how you carry yourself. Be you a male or a female. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you walk, your stature as a man or a woman. This is what people judge you on. This is what people base you on. And then once they get that visual aspect of you, then they start listening to the conversation that you have. And if your conversation is not up to par, it does not matter how you're dressed, doesn't matter how you look, the way that you speak also tells a lot about you. To the young men, when you meet someone, another man especially, you always look them eye to eye. You never have your head down when you meet someone. When you shake their hand, it's a firm handshake. It commands respect as a male from one man to another one. That commands that respect. It's not saying that you're a punk. It's not saying that you're weak, but it's just your stature. Again, it's your stature. It's how you're presenting yourself, that you are confident, that you're able, and that you're willing to do whatever it is that you're talking to this person to do. So you have to be up on your A game. Appearance is everything. We live in a visual world. Talk is really running cheap these days. And a lot of people know exactly what I'm saying. We have 1,000,001 hustlers out here that do this. They talk about what they're doing. They talk about what they have. They talk about what they're about to do. Everybody has the was gonna disease. I was gonna, or I'm finna, or I'm going to. Everybody has that talk. But in the world that we live in today, that talk means nothing. I try and express to people that in the nature of this world that we live in the nature of business, if you're trying to operate a business, the least thing that you can have is a business card. Again, first impressions. That business card establishes you. It establishes your company. It establishes the name. It establishes your brand. And if you don't even at least have that, it's hard for people to take you serious about what you're saying that you're doing. I've heard the talk. I still hear the talk. It, it's an ongoing thing. It's not going to end. But understand, if you don't have anything tangible, which means physical, that somebody can see, that somebody can touch, that somebody can taste, that somebody can smell, you're wasting your breath. See, what I used to do is when I caught the bus and the train here in Atlanta, because I understood this, I've always had business cards on me. And it's people that I stand by, that I believe in, and that I support. That if I 100% believe in what it is that you're doing, I will front you the money for your business cards. Because if you're trying to start establish a business, you at least have to have that to give to people in order to contact you. That's what kind of individual that I am. If I believe in you and we cool like that, I ain't got no problem with that because it's an investment into you. I will carry around. I'm a writer. I'm an author. I'm an artist. I've had my own magazine. I used to walk around with this stuff in a backpack. Why? Because when we get in conversations with, well, when I would get in conversations with people, well, what is it that you do? Well, I do hip hop music. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, what you got? Well, I got this on my phone. I have this music on my phone, and I have a couple of CDs that I've done in my backpack. If you want to see them, tell people that I write books. Oh, so you're a writer now? Yeah, I am. And if you pay attention to people's reaction when you say what it is that you do or that you're trying to do, you can tell that they halfway believe you, they halfway don't believe you. Why? Because they've heard it. You're not the only person that's come up to them to try and entice them into believing in you and having faith in you and investing in you and supporting you. They've heard this speech a million times. And most of the time that they hear these speeches, the person that is giving the speech has nothing to show. So I would go into my backpack and I would pull out my book and the whole conversation. Oh, you are a writer. Oh, you really have a book. Yes, I do. I've had my own magazine. Really, you had your own magazine? Yeah, I did 3 issues. Here's the first 3 issues of my magazine. Oh, you serious? It's just like being in a courtroom and you're trying to present your case. What evidence do you have? Your business card, that's the minimal piece of evidence that you can have. When you're meeting business people, corporate entities, you have to dress the part. You can't walk in there with your hat turned up, with your hat turned to the side, all the way down, covering your face so that can't nobody see your face. You can't walk around in there with blue jeans and a t-shirt and thinking that you're going to impress somebody because the first impression that they have is that you're a street person. Is this thought and is this judgment correct? No, it's not. But that's the first impression that you give of people when they meet you. Men and women do it all the time in relationships. Pretend like they're the nicest guy, the sweetest woman, the best thing that you ever had, and then what happens? Eventually, the mask comes off, the act fades, and the little things you start noticing the little things that you didn't notice before, and then the little things start turning into big things. Why? Because you believed the talk that they were talking, but you didn't do your research on what really type of person that they were, because that was your first impression. The one thing that my mother always taught me is before you get into anything, you research what it is that you're trying to get into. When I got into music, I didn't just jump into music, so to speak. I mean, initially when we first got started being young and everything, yeah, everybody got together with their crew, with their little group, and everybody was doing their little songs and dances and stuff like that. We did all of that. But as I started to take music more seriously, I started talking to people that were in music. I met different artists. I talked to people that own recording studios. I talked to people that wrote songs. I learned about copywriting my music. I learned about all of that, but I had to research it. And because I researched it, that's how I avoided a lot of the pitfalls that a lot of artists went into. Now, I did sign one contract, and I really, at the time, again, being young, I read it, yes, but my level of comprehension for reading contracts was, excuse me, was not where it is today. So I got played on that record contract. But because I let someone else read it and they understood the terminology that was in the contract, they were able to prove that there was a breach of contract on their part that released me from that contract. But at the same time, the same person that was telling me this was showing me in the contract where they did not fulfill the end of the bargain. So, in saying that, we're everything, every move that we make, it's not going to be a perfect move. Every choice that we make is not going to be the best choice, but they're all a learning process. It teaches us what people that we can trust, which people that we can't trust, which people are loyal to us, which people are not loyal to us, which people like us, which people love us, who hates us, who acts like they like us. We all fall prey to first impressions. All of us. There's nobody on this planet that has not been misled by the first impression that they've met of somebody, that in the long run, that impression was not really what it was supposed to be. It's not just in business, it's in life. I mean, look at animals. Animals can look at you. Most animals can tell if you're a good person or not. They can tell if they like you or not. Dogs will growl at you if they sense something off about you. Cats will hiss at you if they sense something off with you. But we as human beings, we genuinely try to believe and try to find the good in everybody that we meet. And I'm not going to say a lot of times, but some of the time, even our judgment call is off based on those first impressions. Now, again, I use myself as an example. To look at me, you would never think that that I've probably never done anything out of the ordinary, but I have. In my lifetime, I've been a thief. In my lifetime, I've been a liar. In my lifetime, I've cheated people. In my lifetime, I've hustled people. I've gone to jail. But to look at me and the presentation that I put out here for the world to see by dressing like this and the way that I'm talking, you would never have that impression of me. You may have some slight reservations because you're not quite sure. But again, you're also basing that on other people that you've met. And if I fit in that side of the line, or if I fit on the other side of the line, which is cool. But I had to find it within myself to understand the world that I was dealing in and how I had to fit in and how I had to play whatever part that I had to play in order to get what it is that I needed to get. Again, we all act. We all do what we have to do to get what we have to do. We are all actors. We just don't know it or we don't pay attention to it. There's a rock group called Rush that has a song the called Limelight. And one of the lines in that song is also out of a William Shakespeare book. I believe it's a Midsummer Night's Dream. There's a line that says, "All the world is indeed a stage, and we are merely players." We are. All of us play some kind of role, but some of us play it better than others. Again, that first impression. When you meet that guy or you meet that girl and they all into you or you all into them and everything is going great, you miss all the little warning signs. One thing that that my mother said, and I've seen other people say it as well, so it's not just my mother, but as far as pertaining to men, if you see a man, if you meet a man that cannot pay his bills, more than likely that man is not a very responsible individual. But yet these are the ones that some women pick to be the fathers of their children. We have to change the way that we present ourselves to this world. And I'm speaking to my brothers and my sisters because I'm at the point where I'm tired of us. Like we have to stop degrading and demeaning ourselves. Now, one of the things that I tolerate, but I don't like, is women calling other women bitches, and they do it in front of us. And what y'all don't realize is that when y'all do that, y'all are giving everybody around you permission, whether it's understood or not understood, whether it's clear or not clear. You're giving everybody that impression that it's okay to refer to you as a bitch or as a hoe or as a thought or whatever the negative term is that they use for women, even with us calling each other nigga. Because we say it so much, because we've made it so integrated into the human society, everybody thinks that they can say it. And then we get offended when they do say it, but we're saying it around each other all the time. So in their mind, again, that perception of their mind, since it's okay that we say it to each other, they feel that it's okay for them to say it to us because it's a normal, natural thing to us. We have to change our mind state. We have to change the way that we talk to each other. We have to change the way that we treat each other, that we interact with each other. Everything is not meant for the outside world. Let's keep that in the forefront because we've lost a lot of things to this world that should have been kept within ourselves. But because we're we're trying to fit in, we're trying to make everybody feel that they're included. Again, we want everybody's first impression of us to not think that we're these savages and these killers and these gangsters and these prostitutes and all of these negative connotations that they portray us on TV and in the movies, and we do it to ourselves in the music. When people see this, when people first come into our neighborhood and they see the things that we do, they hear the things that we say, that's their first impression of us. And then they go back and they listen to their friends and their people, and they say, well, yes, they're savages. Yes, all they do is kill people. They have no worth. They don't even value themselves. They don't value each other. They kill each other off. Again, we giving them permission. We kill each other off, yet we holler Black Lives Matter. We kill each other off. They feel that they can kill us off. Why? Because they're under the impression that it's okay. They're under the impression that we're fine with that we cool with that. Again, like Les Brown said, this is their perception of us, but we cannot continue to allow their impression of us to become our reality. We're losing more and more young black males out here who believe that they have to put out this impression that they are hard, that they are thuggish, that they are gangster, and that they are pretty much bulletproof. This is the impression that they're putting out, and this is the first impression that everybody gets of them. This is the first impression that all of their so-called competition out here has of them, based on the message and the appearance that they're putting out here. And most of us that have been in this game, most of us that have lived long enough, we know that half of these fools out here are not as tough as they say they are. They're not as hard as they think they are. They're not as gangster. They're not as thuggish as they think they are. Because my thing is this: if you are all of this, and and so tough, and this is the impression that you want to put out there, go where they real at. Go to one of the five boroughs in New York with that same imagery, with that same first impression that you want to put out there. Go to Compton. Go to Chicago. Go to Louisiana. Go to New Orleans, and see if you really are. If that first impression that you put out there is really the impression that you want to put out here. I said this last night that these young bucks out here keep referring to all of us as old heads. But in case y'all little young niggas ain't caught on yet, us old heads is outliving y'all young bucks. But y'all ain't catching on to that part though, because you too busy out here trying to floss and everything and stick your chest out here, and you want everybody to believe the impression that you are hard. It's not being hard. That's being foolish, and we've all been foolish. There's a saying that the reason that I'm wise now is because I was stupid once. Understand the game. You're fitting the impression that that certain individuals want to put out there of us. And we're feeding it immensely to the point that it needs to go on a diet. They need to send all of this stuff that's coming at us, they need to send it to Jenny Craig. Weight Watchers or something. Because this is not the impression that we need to be putting out here. Somebody posted that it seems like we losing another rap artist every week. We literally are. And they're not, they're barely making it. Who I think who was the oldest one? I think Young Dolph was so far the oldest at 36 years old. So from 36 years old and under, these young boys that are trying to be hardcore with these impressions that they're trying to put out are dying. And nobody out here is saying anything. My brothers that have escaped that life, my sisters that have escaped that life, where are y'all that help change these impressions? Where are y'all voices at to keep helping these boys to stay out of jail, to stay alive, to stay out of the graveyard? The impression that the first impression that these boys is getting from us is that we don't care, that we don't have their back until it happens to somebody that we know, a family member, a friend. Then everybody's in an uproar about wanting to stop all of the madness. Now everybody's under the impression that we all have to come together until the funeral is over with. And if I piss somebody off by saying that, look at the background. Somebody dies, somebody gets shot up, somebody gets stabbed, whatever. They die, everybody mourns, everybody has this fit, everybody yells, screams, hollers, marches, and then the funeral happens, they get buried, life continues on. How about we give these young men the impression that they can be more than what they are? Your average dope dealer, he's told every day of his life that you ain't never gonna be nothing more than a dope dealer. You ain't gonna do nothing but sell drugs. You ain't gonna do nothing but kill your own people. You ain't gonna amount to nothing. You are worthless. You are not even wanted. You're not loved. This and that. How about that we explain to him that you have
a marketable skill. You can sell things. You can convince a person that has never done drugs before to do drugs and be a faithful customer. What if you take that same dope man and put that dope man on a car lot? What if you take that same dope man and put him in the housing market? If he can hustle dope like that, what makes you think he can't hustle cars like that? What makes you think he can't hustle houses like that? But even us as a people take that first impression that we meet these when we see them on the street corners hustling, when we see them out selling the drugs, when we see them out here doing the things that's illegal, our first impression is that they're a lost soul. They're a lost soul because we keep allowing them to be lost. Nobody's throwing them a lifeline. Nobody's throwing them a rope. I've been there. I've walked that walk. I'm never going to be anything more than a criminal. You don't see my face on a wanted poster. I'm never going to amount to anything. And yet, I'm the author of 5, about to be 6 books. I have 9 albums to my credit. I've had 2 of my songs featured in movies, and I've been on 10 compilations. I've done over a dozen movies and stage plays. I'm the sergeant at arms, formerly president of my Toastmasters Club. This is somebody that they said would never amount to anything. That they took the first impression of me when they met me and saw what I was doing. Their first impression was that I don't have any worth. I'm not going to amount to anything anyway. So why waste your time with somebody like me? I've chosen my path. I've chosen my route. I'm gonna spend the rest of my life in jail. Do you know that at one point in time in my life that it got to the point where I actually believed that? I had heard it so much and so many times that I actually believed and had accepted the fact that my life was going to have one of two fates. That either I was going to be in a grave somewhere at a young age, or I was going to be spending the rest of my life in a jail cell. Because this is what was always put into my head. This is what was always said to me, that that's about what my life was worth. But what happened? My first impression to other people showed them a different side of me. That regardless of all of the stuff that I was doing that wasn't right, there was still something good about me. There was still something good in me that certain people saw, that I had been beat down with all the negativity, that I didn't see it in myself. Again, first impressions. Because of the way that I came up, my first impression of certain people is you can't be trusted. I've heard the stories, I've heard the rumors, I've heard the horror stories. You always got a plan. It's always a setup. And then I'm not gonna lie and say that everyone was perfect. There were some setups that I did take the bait for, but at the end of the day, the only person that I could blame for that is me. But some of those same people that saw that thing in me, they started feeding the positivity into me, making me see that I could be more than what I was, that I could do something different, that the perception that some people had about me, and the perception that I was believing of myself did not have to hold true. And because of that feeding into me and into my spirit and into my heart and into my soul, I became the person that I am now. So there's no such thing as you can't change your life, that the life that you're living is the life that you stuck with. You're only stuck in that life if you convinced yourself that you're stuck in that life. You can change your path. You can change your direction. You can do whatever it is that you want to do, but you have to be the one to see that. And you have to be the one to want that. Nobody can want that for you. Nobody can do it for you. It's something that you have to do for yourself. You have to look in the mirror and understand your first perception of yourself. You have to know who you are as a person, as an individual, not as a collective part of whatever unit that you're a part of, but who are you as you? What is your first thought of yourself? When you wake up and you look in the mirror, what is your first impression of yourself? Because you are the first person that you see every day. So, what is your impression of yourself? And how are you going to fit that perception to the rest of the world so that they see it? Again, you get one chance to make a first impression. And that first impression can determine a lot of things in your life. That first impression can either open doors or it can close doors. It can build a life or it can break a life. But you have to be cognizant of that impression that you're putting out there because you're the one that's responsible for it. Nobody can change that impression except for you. But once you kill that first impression, it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of patience, a lot of diligence, a lot of tenacity, a lot of determination to rebuild that impression. And some people might say, well, if that's what they think about me, then that's what they think about me. That's not my problem. It is your problem because you don't know which door it is that's meant for you to open based on your impression from those people. Now, it may seem like a lot, but what is it that you want? And how bad do you want it? Now, we used to joke, like my family, my cousins used to tease me and my sister when we were growing up because of the way that we talked, because this is the way that our mother taught us. She raised like every day, my mother would give us a word and she wouldn't tell us what the definition was. She wouldn't tell us how to spell it. She would just give us a word, and being a kid, well, mom, what does that mean? She bought us a dictionary. She would tell us to look it up. We'd have to figure out how to spell it, and we'd have to look it up, and we'd have to figure out what it meant on our own. And it was funny because by the time that I got to, well, in Michigan we call it junior high school. Here in the South, it's called middle school. But by the time that I got to junior high school, there was a home ec teacher that did the same thing. Every time that we come into class, she had a new word up there, and we had to look it up. We had to spell it. We had to use it in a sentence. We had to be able to give the definition and all of that. But I was already prepared for that because my mother was already doing it. But because of the way that we talked, and because we spoke proper, My cousins would tease and say that we talked like we were white people. And we would get mad and we would fuss. You know, I ain't talking like no white person. I don't know what you talk about and blase, blase, so on and so forth. But as I started getting older, I created my own language. And when every time somebody would say, "Well, you sound like you talking like a white person," I say, "Yeah, yeah, I'm bilingual." They, well, what you mean you bilingual? Oh, you speak Spanish? No, I don't speak Spanish. I speak Caucasianese. You know, Caucasian. I said, yes. And everybody say I'm talking like a white person, and white people are called Caucasians. When you talking when you talking to China to people from China, you call them Chinese. When you talk to people from Japan, you call them Japanese. So if I'm talking like white person and the white person is Caucasian, then I'm obviously talking Caucasianese, and they would get a laugh. But that's how I felt about it. I mean, but at the same time, I could still go around the hood and still get my point across. And those same people that would pick on me and make fun of me for the way that I talked would be the same people that would come to get me to speak to other people because they didn't know how to talk to them. And if anybody remembers Sanford and Son, the two cops, the black cop and the white cop, Smitty and Hoppy. I think was it Smitty? No, it was Smitty. I think it was Hoppy. Hoppy was the white guy. Smitty was the black cop. And every time that the white cop would say something real proper and using a lot of words and stuff like that, they would look at the black cop and he would break it down so that they understood. And they, oh, okay, okay, I got it. All right. But that was me. You know, I was one that came around like if somebody that was business like showed up in the neighborhood, they would come and get me because I could understand I could understand the language. I can understand the terminology. I can speak to them on their level and understand, and it worked. So it went from me being teased and picked on to me being an asset in those situations. Like I would like if the police showed up, they wouldn't want to talk to the police because they couldn't say that they wouldn't be able to say things the right way and they would feel that if they said it the wrong way that the police would arrest them or whatever. So they would come and get me, and I would learn, you know, what the situation is going on, what's going on, who's what, who involved in what, how this is supposed to go, what's supposed to be said, and I'll go and I'll talk to the police officers, and you know, the majority of the time it worked because we understood each other because I could speak their language and then I could turn around and look at my boys and be like, okay, well look, this is what they talk about. This is what they're gonna do, and this and this and this and this and this and this. Then I go back to the police and well, okay, then this and this and such and such and such and such, and not everybody's on the same accord. But again, walking both sides of the world, everybody had their impression of me. You know, my own folks had the impression that I was well, Uncle Tom. The white folks, you know, think what they think. Regardless of what they see about a black person, we always gonna be a nigga. Let's just be real and let's just be honest about it. And no matter how they say things and no matter how polite they are, they still see us as niggas. But Malcolm X said, I think it was Malcolm X, said that you always gonna be a nigga in this country, which is true. We always gonna be a nigga, but it's up to us to determine what type of nigga that we gonna be. Because it doesn't matter what it is that you do and what it is that you achieve, they still gonna throw nigga at the end of it. If you educated, you're gonna be an educated nigga. If you rich, you're gonna be a rich nigga. If you poor, you're gonna be a poor nigga. But no matter what it is in this country, whatever it is, whatever your status it is, you still gonna be a nigga. The black police don't understand that. Yeah, you a black police officer, but you still a nigga. You just a nigga with a badge and a gun. Okay, you got a PhD, but you just a nigga with a PhD. You just a nigga with a bachelor's. You just a nigga with a master's. Because that's the one impression, that's the one first impression that we've never been able to flip on these folks. That we are more than just niggas. But if we don't change the perception about ourselves and within ourselves and around each other, why in the hell are we expecting anybody else to do it? I mean, let's be honest. You don't see white people walking around calling each other hunky, a cracker, a redneck. Well, I think they do call themselves redneck every now and then. You don't hear the Asians calling themselves gooks. You don't hear the Mexicans walk around calling each other wetbacks, and you don't hear the Italians calling each other wops. But we have made nigga a household name, and we've made it okay. That first impression when they first come around us and they hear it saying nigga, 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 nigga this, nigga that, we've given them that first impression that they have was we've given them permission to say it too. And it's not just the white folks that are saying it. It's the other nationalities that are saying it too because we've made it okay. We've made it socially acceptable. So it's time to rewrite the narrative. It's time to rewrite the impression and give them a new first impression that we are more than what they think that we are. That we are far more valuable than they give us credit for. But that has to start with us. We have to change the first impression that we have of each other before we can correct the first impression given to others. A lot of y'all have forgot where you came from as far as that goes because you've made it to that social acceptance that you so much wanted and coveted that you allowed that first impression to taint your mind to think that you achieved something. In some ways, you may have. But again, let's go back to the real world. You just a nigga that achieved something. Let me go back to the whole aspect of the first impression of a job interview. Now, mind you, again, this the way that I dress, this is for this show, because this is my show. I can dress how I want to dress. I can come in here with blue jeans and a t-shirt on if I want to, because it's my show. This is my business. This is my brand. I can dress how I want to. I could dress business. I could dress hood. I could dress funky. I could dress however. I can not dress at all. I mean, I probably get banned if anybody saw the video, but I could do that because it's mine. But depending upon my environment determines how I'm going to appear in that environment. That is going to be my first impression. If I want somebody to book me as an actor, unless the audition calls for me to speak in slang or what they call ebonics, I have to present myself. Like I don't go in there like, yo, what's up, man? My name is Will, and yeah, y'all, I'm here to do this audition thing, man. So I mean, let's go ahead, shorty, man. Let's get this done with, man. You feel me? No, because the first impression that I want you to have of me if I come to your audition is that I'm professional, which means that I have to be on my game because it's just an audition is another word for job interview. It's just in the acting room, but it's still a job interview because you're interviewing with many other people that are trying to get that same spot, that same role. It's an it's an audition. When you go to a real job interview, it's an audition because again, you're competing with other people for this role or for this job position that everybody wants because everybody's trying to get a job. So I can't go in there and acting hood unless that's what it's called for. So when I go into an audition, I no, I may do my research on what the role is, and I may go in there dressed as how I think that the character would dress. Again, I want them that first impression. I want them to feel that I'm that person. So if I'm going to go and audition as a hitman, and I want them to have the first impression of me that I fit the role of a hitman, I'm going to go into the audition dressed as a hitman. But I don't go in there with the mentality of a hitman. I go in with the mentality of being professional. And what we do in this acting realm is it's called a slate. So again, I can't go in there like, yo, my name is Will, and I'm gonna be doing this audition, man, for this role, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna knock it out for y'all. All right. No, that's not how you that's the first impression that they're gonna have is that you're either an idiot or you're not ready. You for straight ain't professional. And they're gonna they may let you audition, they may not. They may be so nervous, so scared of what you might do if they don't give you the role that they're gonna have security escort you out before you get to say a word. So as a first impression, it's called a slate. So when I walk in to do an audition, I walk in there professional about my business. And it's like, good afternoon. My name is Willie D. Davis IV. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I will be reading for the role of Tony Montana. Their first impression of me at that point, okay, he's professional. He looks like he's ready to go. There's no intimidating aspect of it. There's no worry about it because I'm presenting myself in the way that I should be presenting myself for what it is that I'm there to do. The same thing on a job interview. Yeah, or better yet, my mother. You cannot come to my mother's house talking all that street talk, and I will stop you before we even get to the door. Now we could be laughing and talking, yo, nigga this and man and f this and then man that trick was doing this and this. We can do all of that all the way to in the car on the way to my mama house or however we get there. We can talk all of that on the way there. But when we get to my mama house, first thing I stop you, hey, you need to chill. Take your hat off, man. It's my mama house. And y'all know y'all can't go up in here cussing and using all of them words. First thing come out of my mouth. Why? Because you're meeting my mother. And this is if it's your first time meeting my mother, how you approach her and how you talk to my mother, that's going to be her first impression of you as to what kind of person you are. And if you are what if you still doing that street talk, my mother is going to be like, what kind of mother do you have that raises you like this? And do you talk to your mother like that? And et cetera, et cetera. And most of us don't. Again, same thing with the job. I can talk all the street slang that I want to. I can be on the phone talking to somebody. Hey, yeah, nigga, man, yeah, we gonna do this, man. Yeah, man, them fool, man, yeah, them fool know that they tripping, man. But as soon as I walk into that business door, and let me call you back. How you doing this afternoon? Hi, my name is Willie Davis, and I'm here to speak with Mr. Johnson. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I do have an interview. I'm scheduled for a 1:30 interview. Yes, just sit over here. Okay. Yes, ma'am. No problem. Have a great. Thank you. Have a great day. I'm just let him know that I'm ready, and I maintain that atmosphere of professionalism until the interview is over. There's not one time that when they come and get Mr. Johnson comes and gets me and takes me back to his office for the interview, I don't go into his office and throw my feet up on the desk and start slouching back in the seat like so. Anyway, man. So now that I'm so what we gonna talk about? No, again, first impression. First thing impression that he's gonna get is that you a slouch, that you lazy, that you really not there for the job. You just there for the paycheck. First impressions. You get one time, one chance to make a first impression with me. You get one time to make a first impression. If I even get one inkling that you are not, if we try to talk business and I get any feeling or any sense that you're not about your business and that you're not professional and that you really not into this, I will cut conversation quick. My cutoff game has no mercy. I won't even entertain the fact of even having a conversation with you. Because if you're not talking about business, then you're wasting my time. And that's not being hard. It's not being mean. It's being business. And you either about your business or you playing about business. And I don't play when it comes to business. Corporate America doesn't play when it comes to business. These streets ain't playing when it comes to business. So again, I'm going to ask you, what is your first impression of yourself? Because the first impression of yourself is going to be the same impression that you leave on whoever it is that you meet, whoever it is that you talk to, whoever it is that you touch, whoever it is that you interact with. That is going to be their impression of you from then on. No, I have never not been, I'm not going to say never, I have not been the nicest guy on this journey through life, but I maintain my professionalism. I maintain my aspect of making my first impression my best impression because I don't know what door is going to open at which time. And I'm not going to sacrifice it by killing my own impression and leaving a bad impression on someone else because that bad impression that you leave on somebody else spreads like a virus. And if they're in the same room as you at anything, at any function, at any event, and you are in the same room as them, you think that they're not whispering to the people that they went about you and about the first time that they met you and what their first thoughts was about you. And do you know that them conversations can make anybody else that may have interest in you lose that interest? And then losing that interest, you lose a business contact, you lose money, you lose all opportunities for anything, any progress because of your first impression that you left. When you have your own business, you can do what you want to do. You can run it how you want to run it. You can dress how you want to dress. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. But be able to switch your persona at a moment's notice because that's the way that it's going to work. That's the way it's going to happen. You have to be able to flip the script. There's nothing wrong with being intelligent. There's nothing wrong with displaying your intelligence. There's a problem when you start displaying your ignorance. We're not an ignorant people. We have our ways, but we're not ignorant. And we're never going to be ignorant. We just have to take better care of ourselves in each other and understand who we are and what we are on this plane. Next week, I forget what the subject matter is going to be next week, but I will post it and let you know. You will see it on the Facebook on under my next Icon page and under the Icon Chronicles page. Again, if you want to be a guest on the show, tune in and call in. I didn't even put all of that stuff out there today because I just had to get this off my chest because I've seen us just obliterate ourselves with first impressions, and we need to change that. Anyway, that's my time. Y'all have a good evening. I am out of here until next Monday. Y'all have a great one. Keep your head up. And yo, remember, you get one time to make a first impression. Make your first impression your best impression. Peace.
Someone's trying in my life, trying to take me down. Unleash the wrath of a menace, even though I'm trying to fight. Demons getting stronger, harder to fight. Mama keep praying, I can feel her in the air at night. Looking in the mirror, seeing nothing but the pain. Homie, ain't no sunshine on my rainy day. Ain't nobody got my back, so I stand alone. Full grown on my own, cause the path I chose, I thought would bring better days. It's like I'm in the amazing every act of my back. I be scared of brave. Every step that I take is a test of my faith. Push me to the limit just to make the grade. Most hated by my enemies. These they just seem no so-called friends to turn their foes. So where do I go? I'm at the crossroads, doing everything I can just to hold on. Just a soldier in the game, trying to find my way. Dead and alone, with nowhere to go. I'm at the crossroads.